I'm going to tell you a story. It's about a kid named Elon Buffett, whose father is a billionaire investor. When Elon Buffett turned 22, he went out into the world to make some money. Following the advice of his father's financial advisors and using some initial family capital, Elon Buffett made over $20 million in 2021. Don't we just love hearing about the rich getting richer? No. In fact, we don't. We'd rather hear about the story of the kid who was born in the slums, the poorest of the poor with nothing but a good work ethic, and with enough dedication was able to reach a level of monetary success that most people could only ever dream of. You see, the theme of struggle and redemption is as old as civilization itself. We grow from traumatic events because it's in our DNA to turn past tragedies into today's advantages. It's why most commercially successful Hollywood movies have a happy ending. In business too, the most persuasive ideas involve stories of struggle and sacrifice, of dreams dashed and dreams found. So, why have many wealthy people twisted their success stories to include some form of rags to riches? Well, no one wants to follow a person who hasn't made it themselves from scratch. It all comes back to one thing. You have to dramatize even your life to sell it. If it isn't the rich selling their rags to riches story, the media will, not because they want factual stories, but because it sells. We often associate people like Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates as coming from nothing to becoming the crazy rich people they are. And whilst these billionaires are responsible for excelling beyond even the average billionaire, what we aren't told is that all these people had wealthy families to begin with, whose families often contributed to the success that these now billionaires have. Yet the media will still try to tell us that these billionaires did it completely on their own, all whilst coming from poor families. But why would anyone do this? Let's say hypothetically you're a millionaire or even a billionaire that wants to exploit their status to make even more money. It doesn't matter how you got this money. What does matter is how people think you got it. If you can successfully convince the masses that you were once just like the average Joe, and that with great struggles, great pains, and great determination, you eventually found yourself on top, then congratulations. You won a ticket to possess the minds of millions of people who will do anything you say to become rich. A prime example of this is none other than Donald Trump. During the 2016 presidential elections, Mr. Trump pushed the story about how he was broke, made billions, then went into billions of debt, then worked hard to put himself in the top 0.00002718446% of society again.
Many times. I mean, my whole life really has been a no.
He knew that people would admire that story of his, and those who didn't know much, in fact, did.
It's not been easy for me.
He had to shed his billionaire son's background to get some admiration for his immense wealth. And many Americans loved this. It's part of what helped him to win his campaign. If Donald Trump told the story about how he used his father's reputation and financial status to make his wealth, then no one would acknowledge him. When people have nothing and proceed to get everything, it becomes something to idolize. It feels like an achievement, and you will be loved. Unfortunately, these stories are not good for society. People feel empowered by rags to riches stories and can very quickly develop an unhealthy relationship or even an expectation that if they follow the teachings and practices of rags to riches stories, then they too can become the next big success story. The biggest problem here is that rags to riches stories often encourage people to never quit. But once a believer reaches a burning point and likely gives up, they find themselves in a depressive state as an underachiever. This is obviously a place you don't want to be, but it's the inevitable fate for the majority who try to replicate these rags to riches stories, because these stories are not real and are often fantasized for monetization. For as long as time, rags to riches stories have been designed to sell and to keep the masses following their teachings so that whoever is behind the predatory scheme can make even more money. In today's society, there are many gurus who will tell you exactly how to become a millionaire and how they made it from nothing. But what they don't want you to know is that they stand to gain more than you when you indulge yourself in their stories. So let's say you decide to grow a conscience and no longer want to feel rich by focusing on these fantasy tales of money and actually want to make some money yourself. How can you do it? Well, it's time to maybe find a mentor, read some authentic books, and develop good habits. And most importantly, do not give your money to people who claim they can help you succeed like they have. If you'd like to see more short videos like this, give us a like and stick around.